to see it, friends, and welcome to The World Transformed. This program is your guide to an astounding future that lies ahead, one that will be here sooner than you think, and one that you have an important role to play in bringing about. At The World Transformed, we want to introduce you to what may be the biggest transformation of them all, the one that begins with considering the almost limitless possibilities that lie ahead and that ends somewhere beyond the reach of the human imagination. So, when does that amazing future begin? Well, today is the day. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-blogger, co-futurist, and co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Phil, how are you?
Well, I've been trying out all these different intros, and I decided to trip around with one a little bit here this evening. But other than that, I'm completely super fantastic.
Well, it just shows that we're real here.
Well, it's true.
We're capable of tripping over our own words every now and then.
That's right. This is live radio, or if you're watching us on YouTube, you see we don't cut anything out. You get the full show, everything exactly as it occurred. So, yeah. Welcome to the program. Well, I've done long versions of that. I've done really short versions, and we've had some in between. So we're going to get it exactly right eventually. I think we're very close now. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of prefer the short because it leaves us more time to talk about whatever it is we're going to be talking about that show. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
my vote's for short on the intro.
But how much time do you want to spend talking about the intro? I think that's the.
I think we just spent all the time we ever need.
Probably so. Yes, I think you're right, because we got a huge show tonight. We got a great topic. We're talking tonight about the final frontiers. We're going to be talking tonight about what's happening next for humanity. Are we going to be moving out into space, or are we going to be moving deeper and deeper into virtual worlds? And we're going to get into a couple of interesting examples that kind of point us in one direction or the other. But Stephen, before we get started on this, I'm going to lay out a ground rule. Okay, I want to set a rule for this. The obvious, easy answer is to say both. Okay, so tonight we don't get to say both. How's that?
To heck with this. I'm gone.
We're gonna pick one. Okay,
I'm gonna figure out a creative way to say both that breaks the rule but makes everybody happy.
Well, okay. Well, all right. I'll leave it to you then. If anybody can, you're the one. But I've already observed on Facebook and on Twitter and even on LinkedIn as I'm putting out announcements about this show, the answer keeps coming in. Well, why not both? Why can't we do both? And of course, as I was putting our outline together, that's the obvious answer that I want to come to is both. But before we get to both, or maybe even instead of getting to both, let's look at the pros and cons. Let's look at where the two trends take us. And if you had to pick, which one would you pick, or which one is better? We're going to talk about it in those terms, and then if there's any time left at the end of the show, Stephen, you can talk about both.
I can utter that one word, huh?
But I think we spent all that time talking about the intro, so probably we're out of luck. But so let's wind it back. We got two interesting news stories that we've linked at blogtalkradio.com, and they're also over on The World Transformed. The first is billionaire investors looking beyond Earth. And this is a very real news story about the fact that investing in space is no longer just a pipe dream. It's no longer just science fiction. People are starting to put serious money in things happening out in space, not just in telecommunications satellites and those kinds of things, but we've talked over the past few months about serious movement towards space tourism, serious movement towards mining the asteroids. And if you follow this link and you read this article, it goes well beyond that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And it's real ways to make money in space, and I think that's critical to our actually going. The first time, the first wave of going to space, I think we can. I think ultimately it'll be described as a false dawn, going to the moon, things like that. Because we went, but it was all government, completely government funded. The government was writing the checks for it, with no expectation of staying there for any length of time or doing anything to recoup their money while they're there. And as we return, I think it's gonna be a totally different model.
And
I hope.
I think the difference we're seeing here, and this story actually came from Financial Times, so there you go. We're talking about people investing in space. I think the difference is if governments are putting money into space, that's one thing. But if private individuals are putting their investment dollars into space, that tells you something else about what's happening there, or the seriousness with which people are taking. Not to say the governments didn't behave seriously, but their objective wasn't necessarily moving us into space in some permanent way. When we look back at Apollo, we look back at the space race. I mean, there were geopolitical things going on that we were trying to achieve. Having a permanent presence in space was probably not one of them. These kinds of investments this story talks about really talk about taking that move into space, and people are putting their money into it. And to me, that says, okay, we're moving out into space. This space age perhaps has not dawned. Maybe we've had false dawns before, but it's about to. The real age of exploring space, the real age of moving into space is about to start, because people are starting to see a return there. They're starting to see a reason to go, a reason to put infrastructure up there, a reason to live there potentially. And once people start acting on those kinds of motivations, that's the beginning of the real movement into space potentially. So where's our future? Outer space. Or is it? What's our other story?
Our other story is inner space, or virtual realities, and it's not your typical virtual reality story, is it, Phil? It's about people doing things, maybe beyond what you would expect them to do with games. It is from the Daily Dot is the name of the publication where this article comes from. In the world of virtual computing, IT meets Inception. So what do they mean by that? Well, the movie Inception is dream worlds within dream worlds within dream worlds,
right?
Right. And so inside of these virtual worlds, some of which are like Minecraft and other games like that, Skyrim, things like that, people are building things within them, and sometimes what they're building are computers that run applications within within these games. And so one person did Flappy Bird within Minecraft.
Right.
You go into Minecraft, you go into this person's house in Minecraft, and they got a big screen TV on the wall, and they're playing Flappy Bird, and one person had Minecraft within Minecraft.
And the universe did not explode. That's the thing, It's like that should have been the end right there. If we can survive that, I think this simulation we're living in is much more resilient than we thought. But let me tell you two things about that. The first thing about that is when you look at some of the systems they're working in, and that they actually get computers to operate in those systems, I'm like, the patience and the discipline that it takes for people to get that working is astounding. Yeah, it's amazing. These people are really dedicated gamers, and they are the world champion all-time geeks. My hat is off to them for
these guys. They have our respect, and
alpha geeks, uber geeks, whatever the highest score is, they're it.
They've got the crown.
Yeah,
and amazing things like in Little Big Planet, using gears and pulleys to come up with functioning difference engines that do math and stuff.
Yeah, gears and pulleys inside the game that add up to an actual computer that really does stuff. It's just
amazing.
Just wonderful stuff. But the thing is, as odd as it seems to me, there really is a connection between that and the story from the Financial Times, which is that in the Financial Times you got people putting real money into space. Here you've got people people inside these simulated environments, inside these fake game environments, making real things. They're making real computer systems that really do something, even if it's only a game, even if you're only creating the same game inside the game you're in. That is actually making something real inside there. It is a process of carrying activities from the real world into the game world in a way that even inside the really sophisticated Second Life and things like that, it doesn't get any more meta than that. I guess that's my point. That is the real first step into virtual worlds, when we start building systems down there that begin to work. So there's the dichotomy right there. We seem to be really seriously taking serious real steps into outer space, and we seem to be taking these really serious real steps into inner space. So which way are we actually going to go? And you can't say both. We're gonna let's make the case for outer space. Let's take it back to outer space. Why would we go into outer space? Why do you think, Stephen?
Well, apparently, according to the miners, the space mining companies, there's a lot of money to be made up there.
Right?
If you're not talking helium-3 on the moon, you're talking about, rare earth elements with the asteroids. Sometimes water in outer space can be a very, very valuable thing, and things like that. I mean, if you can find these resources and exploit them, that we're talking very, very serious money that can be made in outer space. And so they're looking at that and just saying, you know what, maybe the resources of one planet aren't enough for our ambitions. Our ambitions are greater than that, and I think that's pretty exciting, actually.
I think so too. That's an excellent reason to go. The reason to go is because there's things we could use. There's things we need, and beyond that, there's maybe excitement out there. There's adventure
That's
to be
right.
had out there. It's the new frontier.
Yeah.
Literally, the new frontier, the next place to go. We've explored this whole planet. Now we've got the whole rest of the universe to move out into. So it's exciting. And to contrast it with our other option, it is real in a sense that inner space doesn't get to claim to be real. And we'll come back. We'll come back to the reality argument in a moment. But we have to hit that one. So, outer space has a lot going for it. What about the case against going into outer space? I would list first that it's very difficult, particularly with gravity wells and all that kind of thing, fuel. And as we're repeatedly reminded of, Rand Simberg, I think, has a book out about this now. It is dangerous
Yep.
going out into space.
The human body is just really not built for outer space at all. We're built for right here, and we're very much optimized to live right here on this planet. And even things like vision begins to suffer, your bones begin to deteriorate. The cosmic radiation doesn't do us any good at all. And we need a lot of oxygen. Where are you going to get that? If you're going to be spending a lot of time in outer space, we need food. In order to go into outer space, and seriously go as human beings, we're going to need to, we'll need to have a lot of people with us. We do things better in groups. And which just is going to, we need to take a piece of the Earth with us. Basically,
right.
We need a huge
to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, we need a huge spaceship to really do it right. And you're talking a huge amount of money. So it's been very limiting that so far. The spaceships that we've managed really amount to small tin cans that are not too much bigger than than automobiles. It just doesn't. You can't do a whole lot with that.
Yeah, it's not terribly encouraging.
No.
When you think about the metaphors, the analogies, I should say, to previous eras, sailing ships, there's just no comparison.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to move people and material across oceans than it is across interplanetary, much less interstellar distance. Outer space is going to be a hard nut to crack if we are, in fact, ever going to crack it. And what we may find, in addition to the fact, Stephen, that we don't fit in very well out there, is that maybe there's just not that much out there. There's an abundance of resources we've established, but maybe no good reason to be out there using them. There might not be other life out there. We might find it in the end not that exciting of a place to be. A lot of planets out there, but if there's no life on them, and we're struggling the whole time, gosh, will it have even been worth it going? Well, I'm overmaking the case because if there's a free seat on a spaceship, I will take it. I'm going to be the first to go. But that is the case against going into outer space. What about the case for inner space? Why would that be the preferable way for us to go?
Well, I mean, we can make it anything we want it to be. What kind of life do you want to live? Well, build the world you want. And what kind of exciting adventure do you want to have? Well, an adventure on a Mars that's more like John Carter's Mars,
Right.
Barsoom it seems to me to be a lot more interesting than the actual Mars.
That's right. You could live in a galaxy that's like Starfleet with all those interesting facial ridged aliens that
Exactly.
speak English conveniently
and
enough. And yeah,
and still manage to be attractive to
yeah,
human beings. So yeah, that's you could explore the universe as Captain Kirk and meet all the lovely aliens. That reality or that virtual reality might be more interesting than the actual reality. So,
yeah.
yeah,
It's fun. It's only going to get more complex and more interesting what we can do there.
right.
It's easy, relatively speaking, a lot easier to do that than it is to go into the to the real universe, and it's safe. You can do it from the comfort of your basement, right, on your couch, right? That's the
Yeah.
one of the great advantages, right? I'm sure that a lot of those guys. I'm sorry that I said guys. A lot of those individuals, but boy, I bet they're mostly guys writing computer programs inside games. Are working from their couch even as we speak on those projects. Anything's possible. It's easy. It's only going to get more complex and interesting. None of the downsides of outer space. So why in the world are we even having this conversation? Inner space is definitely the way to go, but there is a case against. And point one of the case against, and I think it's a big one, it's all fake, right? Outer space, real world. Inner space, it's always going to be something we invented. It's always going to be something we made up. Is that a problem? What do you think, Stephen?
Well, these virtual worlds can become pretty real to those who spend a lot of time in them. And these virtual worlds are only going to get more real to people as time goes by. I'm reminded a little bit of the Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon has got the cop over at their house, because someone stole his stuff in World of Warcraft. Okay, to him it was very, very real.
Absolutely.
I lost my ostrich. He was a simple ostrich, but that he had lost all his stuff, and it was very, very real to him. I think that I think there's it's to the people who spend time in these virtual worlds, it's real life, and real money can be made in these worlds.
Yes.
If you accomplish something or you have something that sometimes I don't know, bits and pieces of these things can be sold on eBay and things like that. So it's the argument that it's not real. I think that argument will diminish over time.
Well, we've talked a lot about designer reality, and we've talked a lot about the fact that people aren't necessarily living all that committed to the real world anyway now. So the objection that they're not going to be living in the real world in the future when it's more compelling and more convincing, I think that's going to be an increasingly difficult one to make. But you know what, Stephen, we have gotten through these objections fast enough that I think we do have some time to talk about both. And since that is the answer that keeps coming in, Christine Peterson left a comment on Facebook, said both. And I want to read this comment that I got over on LinkedIn because I think this is great. Stuart Mason Dambrot wrote, "The question will eventually be irrelevant through the synthesis of augmented reality, synthetic biology, programmable genomics, neuroscience, and quantum entanglement." And then he makes a plug for a book. Read The Quantum Thief for a brilliant sci-fi vision set in a future when inner and outer space have merged. So let's talk about what's the pros of merging the two. According to Stuart, it's definitely the way to go. And I would say, even going back to our objections, that a lot of the objections to outer space can be overcome if we go to outer space via inner space. One of the things that we might that we've often talked about doing is not sending our own bodies, not sending ourselves into outer space, but actually sending uploaded versions of people, simulated versions of human beings that might be as human as you or I, because all those requirements that we were talking about earlier, the need for air, the tendency to get fried by radiation, and all those other risks, those go away. Actually, even the boredom. It's very difficult to put a human being into suspended animation. We don't know how to do that. A computer system, you just shut it down, right?
Yeah.
You fly across interstellar space in your little Coke can-sized ship, which doesn't have to be this big investment in fuel and all the material that would be required. And when you get there, you fire it back up, and you've arrived, and no time has passed for the entities who are living in that virtual environment. So
Yeah.
right off the bat, it seems to me that the two start to work together very well when you start thinking about it in those terms.
Well, what we're talking about obviously is the von Neumann probes, right? I mean that's the
Exactly.
The old idea. John von Neumann, probably more than anyone, responsible for the modern day computer architecture. He was a brilliant man. His idea was that probably the best way to expand out into the galaxy is to send self-replicating probes that could go from one star system to the next, replicate themselves, build more of themselves, and go in every direction from that new star system, and then and fill the galaxy in fairly short order.
Right.
And of course, we saw a version of that in a relatively early sci-fi movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey. The monoliths were von Neumann probes from an alien civilization, and so each, I think it could be argued, one interpretation of those monoliths were that they were, basically nanotech civilizations within the monolith.
Right.
And so wherever they went, they, the aliens within it, whole civilizations worth, could be experiencing whatever reality they wanted to within the probe, but they were also out in the universe, gathering information, encouraging life, encouraging humanity to become humanity, and things like that. So that's that particular vision of how we move out into the universe is, actually it's the virtual worlds sort of serve as a it's like a prerequisite technology. It's necessary for that version of how you move out into the universe.
Yeah, you might think of the virtual worlds as being an interface that we're using, or a buffer that's between us and the real universe. But really what we'd be doing is we'd just be taking them with us. We'd be taking our inner space with us wherever we went, or alternatively using inner space as a means of sending ourselves there without us actually having to go. The biological versions of us, the original MOSH, mostly original substrate human versions of us, could stay here, or if they get uploaded or destroyed or whatever, it's not an issue. You don't have to send these biological entities out into an environment where they're going to have a difficult time making a go of it. And yet, a copy of you and I, Stephen, could be on every one of those probes. We could be traveling through the, talk about your Star Trek. I mean, right? You could explore the whole galaxy, just a little bit at a time, right? Or you couldn't do the whole thing, but you, that is to say, different copies of you would be doing it. And I think that probably it won't be like that. That scenario, because we've talked about that one a few times, is not exactly how it will pan out, but somehow or other the two will find a way to meet up. I don't think we completely ever turn our back on the physical world, because we can't. We need it to power our computers in order to have our simulations, if for no other reason. But the universe is just too big and too interesting for us to turn our backs on it. And I think that we will continue to venture out into it, but I think we will take the inner worlds with us. I think we're going to make them much better and much more compelling. And as you said, Stephen, I think they're going to be a prerequisite technology to make it possible, an enabling technology to make it possible to do that. And that's using inner space to mean inside virtual worlds. Someone left a comment, both and. Someone left a comment, there's other possibilities too. There are other possibilities too. In addition to outer space, there's another kind of inner space. There's the kind of inner space where we go smaller and smaller down into beyond nanospace, into femtospace, and into whatever lies below that. That might not be as solipsistic an endeavor as going into computer worlds, because what we might find there is a doorway into completely other macro universes. So there are a lot of possibilities here, and we really don't have time to get into the details on all of them, but having precluded both as an answer at the beginning of the show, I think I can gladly and safely say, yeah, I think both is probably the right way to go.
I think before we just embrace both completely, I think we should point out that there are some who have answered the Fermi paradox by saying that alien civilizations have gone inward like
yes.
this. Have gone into virtual worlds to such an extent that that's the reason we've never met up with aliens so far, is is that civilizations just tend to go inward into the virtual worlds rather than bother crossing these huge interstellar distances. I just don't believe that. I believe that what we're dealing with is a lot of funnels between single cell life forms and life forms that are capable of crossing the distances. And so I'm thinking that that's the reason we haven't met up with any, is because intelligent life is exceedingly rare. And so, anyway, I guess we'll see.
And
as hopefully as a species, we'll know eventually.
We'll find out. And the thing is, or we won't, because we'll just go into virtual worlds and we'll model our own thing. We'll never find out what happened in this universe.
Shame, I think.
That's to me, that's the other big objection to just going into inner space, is we'll never know what else is out there. And how could we stand not to know? How could it be out there and us not go find out, right? To me, that's impossible. If whatever comes beyond us, if post-singularity, whatever comes beyond us keeps any shred of what humanity is, we're going out into space. That's my prediction, and I will stand by it. And Stephen, what is our music this evening?
Our music this evening, well, put it this way, I'm tired of this cold weather. And
okay.
So our music this evening is Summertime by Brother Love.
Brother Love with Summertime. Well, thanks so much, Stephen, for putting that together. Thank you all for being with us. We'll be back on Wednesday and Friday with 2 brand new shows. We hope to have you with us then. And until next time, live to see it.
When I was young, I'm talking about the good times, just you and me, was all we ever